All right, welcome to another sketching video. In this one, we're going to go over 1-point perspective. So this is going to be the first object in your perspective sketching activity. We'll do a separate video for 2-point perspective. For now, we're just starting with 1. Okay, first thing I want to remember that I fill out my title block always. And our first step is going to be very similar to like in our other types of sketching, in that we will be creating, I take that back, we're actually going to create some vanishing points, or a vanishing point first, and then we'll do our construction box. Okay, our date is September 12th. All periods. Okay, so the vanishing point is somewhat arbitrary. Okay, I'm going to create a horizon line by just making a horizontal line with one of my existing lines on regular orthographic paper. I'm going to place for this one a vanishing point somewhere up to the left of where I want my object. Okay, so I'm going to be drawing this object. This is the front, this is the right, and this is the left down here. This is just an alternate view of this object. Okay, this object, if you look on the actual activity, you can see the boxes on it, but it is 4 total in width, 4 grid spaces that is, 3 total in height, and 2 total in depth. Okay, so in order to make this a little bit more visible, I'm going to actually double the scale on this. So I'm going to create a construction box starting, say, about right here. And since it's 4 in width, I'm going to go 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's 3 in height, so I'm going to go 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to create my construction box based on those dimensions. Using nice light lines again. Oops. And then again, I like to draw all parallel lines at the same time because it's just a little bit more efficient. Okay, so we've created a vanishing point, we've done a construction box. We've done step A, we've drawn the front face of the construction box. That's easy enough. Basically exactly like isometric. Here's where things start to get different, okay? So I'm going to take all of my corners of the construction box and I'm going to connect them to the vanishing point. These lines will represent lines of depth, okay? So I'm going to connect from the vanishing point to this corner, to this corner, and to this top right corner as well. Okay? So those give me my depth lines. Okay? So here's where I think it's a little bit easier than oblique. Okay? Because what you're going to do now is you get to estimate. Now, here's the caveat. Estimating is sometimes easier than actually doing measurement and conversion to half scale, but I need to be consistent with my estimates. And what I mean by this is that since this is a depth of 2, okay, I'm going to try and give it a scale of about what that would be. So I think maybe right here would be a good estimate. Now, rather than estimating it on each of these other lines, in order to stay consistent with my estimate, I purposely chose this middle of the 3 depth lines on purpose, because what I can do is then line up vertically, or as close to vertical as I can with my straight edge. And then from that estimated point, I'm going to draw a line down for the back left edge of my construction box. And then I'll do the same thing horizontally with the top edge of my construction box. Okay? So now I can see I have created a construction box that is approximately double scale of 4 by 3 by 2. Okay? Your results may vary slightly based on your estimation. Okay? So the next step is going to be very similar to oblique in that we're going to draw the front face. The front face on here has true height and width because I am at the frontmost part of the object and it has not had a chance to be skewed by any of our vanishing point lines. Think of a vanishing point line as if you're looking down a train track or a road and you see it converging off in the distance, or if you've got an overhead view of a building, like from a drone or a bird or whatever, and it looks like the building is getting skinnier and skinnier as it moves towards the ground. That's essentially what a perspective sketch does, and it gives us a more realistic view. So in order to kind of do the front, though, that's still, in 1-point perspective at least, still true to everything. So if I look again on my sketch, I see that this front box is 3 by 2 width by height. So, and I'm double scale again, so I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for 2, I'll go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be the front face. So I can go ahead and use object lines for this. So once again, being very careful to try and stay as close to vertical as possible, because I want all these lines to be parallel when they're in the same direction. Okay, again, feel free if you're watching this as a video to pause at any point and make sure that you stay caught up. Okay, so that's the one easy face. The other ones aren't too bad, but it is again going to involve some estimation. Okay, and again, I want to be consistent with my estimation. So I'm going to start off with this left side, this little box right here. Okay, if I look on this, it is essentially, it starts halfway back on the depth. So this is if this is the imaginary box right here that it fits in, it's halfway back from the depth. So if I'm looking right here, I again like to use this one to do all my estimates because it's between my other two lines. So I'm going to estimate halfway back. Now notice I'm not going to go exactly halfway back because as this thing is moving closer towards the vanishing point, it squeezes the dimension more. So I'm going to go just a little bit beyond halfway back, okay, for my estimate. From there, I'll draw a line down. And since this little rectangle goes the full height of the box, I can go ahead and make that an object line. Again, I'm being very careful to keep things nice and vertical, or as close to that as possible. Okay, I'll do this back edge again. And then for my other object lines, again, I want to line up my vanishing point to make sure that I'm making my object lines line up with my previous construction lines. Okay? All right. Now I need this top portion right here. Okay, so the top portion actually shares an edge with the box I just drew. So this edge right here. And so what I can start doing on perspective is looking for intersections of lines. So I know that these two are shared. So this box has a line that will go horizontally for the width all the way, well, I'm going to draw it all the way across as a construction line. So from right here, I'm going to draw a horizontal line, nice and light, all the way across. Okay? That's going to give me a guide for this part. Now, in order to know where this line is, I've got to, again, imagine from the front. I like to estimate from the front of the box to give it like a grid system. So it is half the width from the left. So if my full width here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, from the front of my construction box, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And from here, I'm going to draw a line to the vanishing point and use that as a construction line. And now I can see what has taken shape as that top rectangle. So just to clarify it a little bit, I'll draw some vertices. So this quadrilateral right here is going to be that top section. And we'll see, hopefully I don't run into any problems here because I think my horizontal line right here might actually, well, it's pretty close. Okay, so now I've got my 3 faces drawn. Okay, so there's the other faces. And I used a consistent estimate for my depth coming from this same point right here. as halfway back. So now I'm going to draw the interior edges. This is where things get a little more tricky, and where I'm basically going to be using intersecting lines in order to find where these different parts go. So the first one I'm going to look at is this vertex right here, where I have 3 lines that intersect. Okay, one of width, one of depth, and one of height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from each of these 2 corners and draw respective width and depth lines. So from here, I'm going to draw a width line. My width lines are always going to be horizontal. I'm drawing a nice light construction line. And from this corner, I'm going to draw a depth line. Again, nice and light. Okay. And where these 2 intersect is going to be the vertex where these 3 are. Okay, so I'll go ahead and darken those in as object lines. Okay, and I can also see from here that I've got a height line going up. So I'm just going to use a construction line again. It's almost right on that line. I'll draw a nice light vertical construction line up. And I can see now, furthermore, that as I get up here and I want to get to this vertex, okay, I want to see where this line comes from. And it's that top left corner of my front face. So again, I'll draw a construction line, nice and light back. And this vertex is going to be that line. So now I can take it and make it an object line. Okay, and we're getting close to being done now. All right, the next thing I'm going to look at is this point. All right, I've got a horizontal width line extending from that vertex that I just created, or it'll go horizontal. And then I've also got a height line that's going to be vertical, extending from the top right corner of my top face. So from here, I'm going to make a horizontal line, nice and light, and from here, I'm going to make a vertical line. Okay, and then I can go ahead and darken it in as object, right where it intersects with that line. Okay, and I'm getting really close to being done. All right, the last 2 steps I have are these 2 edges. Okay, this one's just going to go straight back from here. I'm going to keep it a construction line because I don't know how far back it's going to go yet. Okay, so it's going back, 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 back. And this one, okay, there's 2 ways you could do it. One, you could kind of estimate. I can see that it's back here. It's going to be beyond this part, so it might be somewhere around here. In fact, it might even be just close to this shared top edge of our construction box. But I'm a little OCD. I like for it to be perfectly lined up if possible. So what I can see is that this back edge is 3/4 of the way up, and it's going to extend from the same back edge from here, theoretically. Okay, so what that means is I can go from the front 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, from here I'm going to draw a construction line. That's going to give me like a point from this back edge that I know it will go across horizontally from. And again, it's going to actually work out pretty nicely in that it's basically the exact same as my construction box. But I now know where those 2 meet, and I can darken that in. Now, again, like I said, if that one was a little bit much to follow, you can also just do your best to estimate that very last part. The reality is you're not going to see a whole lot of difference in the 2. I like to use this front construction box face, like I said, as almost like a coordinate system to kind of build my lines. You'll see how this one has turned out so far also, that it's really, really important to delineate your object lines from your construction lines. We'll see this really take shape as we start to shade it, because it's going to help to cover up some of those construction lines. So I'm just going to do some lighter shading on all the front faces, and then I'll do darker shading on the left faces. And once I get these shaded in and smoothed out, hopefully some of those construction lines will start to disappear a little bit, and the object will really kind of start to take shape. So again, I'm just going to go as lightly as I can, especially until my pencil lead has dulled out a little bit. Once it dulls some, then I won't have so many distinct lines. I'm just going to try and fill in everything on the front face so that I can smooth it in afterwards. Then I'll do darker shading on all the left faces. So I'll start out just exactly the same as I did on the front face, except I'll then go 90 degrees and do some perpendicular shading as well. Okay, once I'm done with my shading, I'll just smooth it out some. And there we've got a little bit nicer looking one. Now, typically I say don't erase any construction lines. Sometimes if you'd like, just to help delineate, you can kind of get rid of right where your construction lines meet your object lines going to the depth, but don't fully erase them because I need to see that all your lines are going to those vanishing points, okay? So again, every depth line should always be going back to that vanishing point on these. Okay, so that's how you draw 1 point perspective. We'll do 2 point tomorrow, and we'll try and record that one as well, so you all have a good example. Thanks for watching.